I would like to welcome all of you today to our Vital program, and today we're going to be looking at what makes a great educator and what makes a great learner. And this is from a partial installation and information gathering investigation. Before I start, I would like to introduce you to Pauline McMahon, who is here to sign for us everything that I say, which is kind of daunting, I'm going to be honest. But it's great. Okay, so today we're going to be talking as part of Vital. Is this our 7th event? I think so, yeah. That is part of the celebration of the value of teaching and learning in Ireland. And today we're discussing what makes a great educator, what makes a great learner, and this is an outgrowth from a project that a lot of you in the room were involved in, which were the boards that were around the college. So yeah, we're just going to drill into it and see how we go. So the purpose of that particular event was that it was partially an installation and it was also partially an investigation to put out a prompt to the entire student body and staff to say, what is it that makes a great educator? What makes a great learner? And let people just write their thoughts on boards around the campus. So we wanted to prompt students to reflect on this, and staff, about their own practice as students, as learners, as teachers in their own right, and also for our academic and PMAS staff to look at, just to reflect on what it is to be a great learner, what it is to be a great educator, and what does that actually mean, and do we value it, and all these kind of conversations. So we had a great uptake, particularly of the boards, which I'm sure a lot of you saw on campus. They were great. I have some pictures. So the timeline for the public boards that we left up, they were only up from November 8th through the 15th, at which time we took them down, and Lauren transcribed the stuff that was on the boards for us, and I did the stuff that was on the next timeline, which was the online survey. Just giving people an opportunity, the staff actually, and we're going to open this back up for students as well, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But we wanted to give the opportunity for staff to maybe, put something in that wasn't as public, So we had 24 respondents there, and I'll drill through that in a second. So the methodology of the entire project, and you can see in the background there the wonderful Pat McAuliffe, who's one of the library team in this particular picture. The methodology was that how the whiteboards and notice boards, they were used just to capture public comments and to look at the two topics that we wanted to kind of bring to the fore. So we had 5 areas over the campus that had installations. The first was student canteen. Here in the library we had one as well, and we also had one in the Quadrangle building, which was in front of the chapel. And then we also had one in the Carrick Lee building and in the NFS, which is the National Film School. So we put them all across campus so people would all have a chance to have a look at them and such. So we did the online survey, as I mentioned, but I just sent that out to staff, and we are going to be including students in an online way. So students who might be a little shy or weren't on campus, because we are kind of hybriding at the moment, would have an opportunity to express their thoughts, and then we can take that data and do something with it. Okay, so funding for the project has come from the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Ireland, and it's been supported by our own Teaching and Learning Committee, and so that's how we're able to do this, and obviously the library staff. This is just a snapshot of some of the boards, which I thought was pretty, kind of speaks for itself in terms of engagement and how people interacted. So I'm going to go into the work that we did with the staff, because that was easier for us to translate and actually see what was going out, what the key themes were across those 2 questions. So 24 respondents in total, which is a really quick turnaround, because this is only available to the staff for like 3 days or 4 days. 6 were from the professional from the professional managerial administrative and support staff here in IADT, and then there were 18 that came from academic staff. So that's good engagement. We were a very small campus, so it was nice. And then the team of my wonderful Vital peeps, who are the kind of lead with me on this project, and are welcome to speak up at any time, by the way, if you want to do that. We'll have discussions afterwards. These are the key words that the team came up with. There's quite a few, and I don't know if Pauline can see them all. I don't know if you want to.
No, do you want me to sign them all, or do you want to speak some of them?
No.
Whatever you speak on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay. I just got to figure out how this works. So I can barely see because it's so small. But curiosity, motivation, engagement, resilience, patience, empathy, resource, kindness, passion, driven, humility, containment of ego, attendance, being present, learn, develop, question, discipline for oneself or for what you're actually studying, or the content, caring, exploring, explore, generosity, participation, accommodating, diversity, encourage, understand, open, enthusiasm, inclusion, communicator, schedule, yes, giving yourself to, or being on time. Time was kind of an interesting thing. Presence, innovation, innovate, respect, email, replying to within office hours, interest, ambition, hardworking, respecting trans rights. We didn't have an incident of that, but it was interesting because respect you'll see it's actually has quite a few times if you go back to the board before, but there was very little in terms of gender or identity that was being displayed on the boards, which I thought was interesting. But then, as I mentioned, we do need to drill down into that a bit because it's just early days with this data. So the highlights that came from the professional, managerial, administrative, and support staff are here. So what I did was I took all the, I just basically made word clouds. So the number of occurrences will tell you kind of from the sample what the loudest voice in the room was. And for this one, it's definitely passion, curiosity, and empathy, which I thought was great. And this is about the educators. Okay, so you're looking at the professional, managerial, and administrative staff and support staff kind of saying, okay, this is what makes a great educator. Then we look at their same view of learners. So what is it that makes a great learner? For the PMASS staff, you can see that the interest, curiosity, questioning interest, and questioning and open were the biggest kind of things, which I think is really interesting too, because these are people that are not teaching per se, they're not the lecturing staff, but they're teaching in other ways all the time. And they have so much interaction with our students and they support them in all kinds of ways. So when they're looking at learners, what they're looking to find is, are they open, are they questioning, are they interested? So I thought it was a really nice thing, and there's lots of other stuff in there too. Respect, engagement, enthusiasm, understanding, attendance, questioning. So it's nice kind of themes. So now we're going to look at the academic results. And I've just done these as word clouds because, we can drill into the actual data and get more from it because there's quite a bit that's there, and there'll be even more after we do the online survey. So for the academic staff, what they identified as the great traits of an educator, right there, that the educator is willing to learn, that they have patience, empathy, understanding, they're caring, they're interested, they're passionate, and I see then they need to develop, hardworking, work, all this kind of thing. So it's not dissimilar to what you're going to see here about what they say about the learners. So this is your academic staff. These are your, kind of facilitators in the classroom who are taking you through. And what the responses that we have here are that learning is as important for the lecturers as for the academic staff as it is for the ideal learner. And I thought that was a lovely kind of outgrowth from this. There were a couple of lovely quotes about, none of us, it's funny, the one person said, none of us are educators and all of us are educators. We all are here to learn, and we have to take that on board. I thought that was a lovely kind of comment because it is true, I think, in the best of us, that we are always learning from our students, and our students hopefully are always learning from us.
What jumps out to me on that, Rebecca, just the difference between the two is the use of the word curiosity.
Yeah.
So curiosity as a learner, it makes you a great learner.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're very similar, but
curiosity pops in. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting.
And actually, curiosity is a big theme that came out of all of the boards in particular. When a student is curious and they're present, and these are all indications of a great learner that's going to get the most out of their own education, which I think is something for all of us to reflect on, because we do need to stay hungry, we do need to stay curious, and when that's in play, there's really nothing that you can't do. You actually get extra strength from that to actually keep going with the stuff that you have to do. But I must say, this is probably it's a little side note, and actually Kai, who's not here today, he's not feeling well, so he's remote. But he sent me one of the results that we had, and this particular academic had said, and they're all anonymous, so I have no idea, said that what makes a great educator is empathy and patience, and what makes a great learner is perspiration and persistence. And Kai's note was, why do the lecturers want us to sweat? Which I thought was really funny. So yeah, so it's kind of funny. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because you've got these soft kind of words like empathy and patience and this, and then this is that I was thinking probably says more about this, whoever they are, this person's education system, like what they had to go through, than it does about our own students, I would say. So I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit of a close-up of the canteen. This was primarily the student voice. You can see that it's quite what you'd expect in some ways. You've got words like passion, punctuality, hard working, listen, communication, willingness to learn, working well with others, and accepting help. I kind of thought there was lots of great themes within that. And but I also would mention that this was probably one of the more public boards where people are sitting watching and eating, and they go up and they write something, so everyone's going to be looking at it. So maybe, I think in the more private boards, there were more doodles, but we have lovely doodles on these as well, because people are very creative. So I just encapsulated some of the student highlights of what they were saying. And there's a heck of a lot more to do with this particular bunch of data. Okay, so for them, what came out really loud was communication, passion, enthusiasm, and openness was what they felt made a great learner, and both learners and in educators. So I thought that was really lovely. Great learners need to have drive or be driven. I don't think they're talking about cars there, but these are the jokes, folks. Sorry. But empathy in educators was a huge thing. They really wanted empathy from the educators, and actually that was something that the educators identified really clearly as well, that they needed empathy, or that was what made a great educator, was empathy. And the same for the PMAS staff. If you remember, they also emphasized empathy. So empathy is part of the thing. They were much more critical of the educator, but showing up and being present and being on time and these sort of things, that was a theme across both educators and learners. So it's apparent in both. These are the negs. As I had to share some negative news. This wasn't all happy flowers, but the students, actually there was nothing except that one comment and then a couple other ones that we'll drill into. But I thought that patience and persistence patience and empathy and perspiration was kind of funny. So the negatives from the students were that the timetables, and this was actually more centered around different areas. Timetables are a huge issue in certain parts of the college, and it's nice to see where that's coming up. I won't disclose that at the moment, but you'll have to read the paper. Reading off PowerPoint. So what I'm doing right now is problematic in terms of engagement, and I totally agree. But they also mentioned that lecturers emphasizing their own studies, timekeeping, showing up, and communication. Communication is a big theme that they felt as though they weren't being properly communicated with sometimes. And that theme is actually interesting because of the other sessions that we've done. We've looked at what specific needs, learning needs, and difficulties that some of our students have, and how do we communicate with them in a way that is going to, it's partially for lecturers maybe about writing a brief, taking through, doing like a walkthrough and clarifying things, making it very clear. And clarity is really important when you're working towards, an award that you've spent a lot of time and money on. So students would urge academic staff to respond to emails sent within the office hours. This is a gift to Kai, because this is something that's coming up quite a lot, that some lecturers do not respond to student emails because their email box is full of stuff from TNL and others. So this, I loved this. This was the Carrick Lee board, and they had what makes a great learner, what makes a great educator, and on both sides, just right next to each other, was humility. And I thought, that's exactly what we need, isn't it? I mean, I kind of think it's really important. So there's a lot more to be done with the data, as I mentioned, but this was a nice takeaway. In many instances, what makes a great educator makes a great learner. So we have a shared set of values here, and that's really exciting to me, because that means we can build on that, because we're all trying to do the same thing. You know, we're actually working towards the same goals all the way along. Passion, interest, respect, learning, and curiosity are prevalent themes throughout. This is just a little side note, but I felt the more public the board, the more sort of serious the comments were, whereas the more private ones that were in different parts of the college where people aren't sitting there watching you, you know, while they're eating, they had a little more freedom. And it was, you know, we had a lot of comments. It was very abundant, and for me, I was, you know, there were a couple comments that, oh, should I censor that? But I thought, no, this is expression, and I think particularly where we are, that expression is so very important. There will be a follow-up presentation when the online data comes in from the students, if they would just allow themselves to take a moment to do it, because I know they're inundated and they've got a lot of deadlines. Academic staff would like to see less emails from HR and T&L. So that was for me. Thank you very much. And I had to respond by saying I hope we are going to have an intranet for the staff to communicate on, which they'll probably, you know, people will ignore as well. But having said that, it'll at least move a lot of the traffic away from their regular inbox into somewhere else. So this is my thank you. I want to thank the National Forum for their funding, and the Vital Peeps, who are some of which are here today, Jane and Pat McAuliffe, the library team, the SU, without which we would not be able to be here for certain sure, IADT's Teaching and Learning Committee, and of course the Vital program that's running out of the National Forum for the enhancement of teaching and learning in Ireland. And that is that. Any questions? No? Everyone's happy? Thoughts?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's nice to see the convergence. I mean, there's always going to be divergence.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was surprised.
There should be some divergence.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I think, you know, there's parts of education that is like cod liver oil. You know, you have to take that piece before you move on.
Yeah.
And at the time of consumption, it's not very palatable.
Nor present. Yeah.
So you would expect, depending on where you are on your cycle,
Yeah.
you know, your view might be tempered by that. But it's really nice to see that there is that convergence of, as you say, you know, it kind of indicates a kind of a value system that both the educators and the students that operate in the same space share. Yeah. And that I think gives us a strength and something that we can work on.
I think so too.
I think some of the operational issues are always going to be challenging.
Particularly now.
And particularly now, the email question. I know students. I know from talking to students, your inbox gets really. The institute sends a lot of stuff to you, and can get very challenging. And equally for staff, there's an awful challenge in managing that piece. And that's where I think the interaction on the corridors that happen so often here, but are don't take place because of hybrid and COVID. We certainly are missing that.
Yeah, we are.
But yeah, it's very interesting.